Genre: time loop slash comedy slash thriller logline. At first, I was trapped in the same day, fired, humiliated, and dead in a gutter. Later, I realized the day resets infinitely, so I went insane and invincible. Finally, I played the ice-cold female CEO and her scumbag fiancé like fiddles, turning this desperate day into a magnificent fireworks show. Today is my 10,000th time being trapped on June 18th. It is also the 10,000th time I am preparing to die. The alarm clock screamed at exactly 7:00 a.m. I kept my eyes closed, extending my left hand to fumble blindly on the nightstand. 3, 2, 1. A warm glass of water landed precisely in my palm. This was my roommate Josh, a grad student cramming for finals. Every day at 7:01 a.m., he walks past my door with warm water. In the 1,000th loop, I tried to befriend him. In the 9,000th loop, I swapped his water for straight vodka. Today, for the 10,000th time, I was just a thirsty passerby. I downed the water in one gulp, shoved the empty glass back into his trembling hands, and rolled out of bed. Thanks, bro. Perfect temperature. Behind me, his stuttering voice faded. H, how did you know? I didn't have time to answer. I washed up, threw on the cheap suit I'd worn 10,000 times, and walked out the door. At the bagel shop on the corner, the owner asked the usual. Everything bagel or just a coffee? I told her, I'll take it all, but I didn't bring my wallet. Then, amidst a chorus of asshole and get a job, I grabbed the bag of bagels and sprinted. This kind of $0 shopping spree is a joy only a time loop can provide. I squeezed onto the subway, packed tight enough to crush a man into a JPEG. A greasy middle-aged man was quietly sliding his hand toward a young woman's purse. In the 999th loop, I had righteously exposed him only to get shanked in the kidney by his accomplice, ending that day early. Now, I yawned and extended my foot with mathematical precision. Oof! The greaseball ate the floor hard. He smashed face first, chipping half a front tooth, his mouth full of blood. The girl jumped, looked down, and saw the tweezers and razor blade he dropped. Her face went pale before she started screaming at him. Chaos erupted in the train car. I hid my merit and fame, squeezing out the doors the second we hit the station. Refreshing. Walking into the office building, the receptionist, Tiffany, was touching up her makeup in a mirror. Seeing me, she immediately plastered on a fake professional smile. Morning, Caleb. Morning. I walked up to her, smiling. That shade of lipstick really suits you, but don't buy that brand next time. It's got high lead content. Also, your boyfriend went to a midnight movie with your best friend last night. I still have the ticket stub. Want to see it? Tiffany's smile froze. The lipstick slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a clack. I didn't stick around to watch her turn to stone. I whistled as I walked into the elevator. Inside, the department manager, Buzz Miller, was nursing his beer belly and spitting flying saliva as he bragged about his conquest from last night. I walked over and patted his shoulder. Buzz, you really need to trim that gut. He froze, looking at me with displeasure. What did you say, kid? I leaned into his ear, whispering so only he could hear. Otherwise, the weight of the horns your wife is putting on you is going to crush you to death. By the way, that 30 grand of secret cash you hid under the office ficus plant, your wife already found it. She's preparing a big surprise for you. Buzz's face went from red to green, then from green to white. Cold sweat poured down instantly. He looked at me with terror, as if staring at a demon. The elevator doors opened. I straightened my tie and walked out. Today was the big day, the signing ceremony between our group and Sterling Capital. The CEO of Sterling Capital, Victoria Sterling, the woman known as the ice goddess of the business world, would be there in person. And me? I was a transparent nobody in the project department. My job was to stand there as a human back. Then, after the ceremony, I would be publicly fired by Victoria's fiancé, who also happened to be our company's crown prince, Chad Kensington, for sloppy appearance damaging the corporate image. Then I would walk out of the company in a daze and get hit by an out-of-control delivery truck. Day after day, the same script. At first, I broke down. I raged. I refused to accept it. Later, I tried every method to save myself. Calling the cops, calling in sick, even knocking Chad Kensington unconscious. Useless. No matter what I did before midnight, I would die in various bizarre ways, only to wake up promptly at 7 a.m. the next day. It wasn't until the 3,000th loop that I figured it out. Since I can't escape, I might as well enjoy the ride. I walked into the conference room. It was already packed. At the head of the table sat a man in a bespoke suit, handsome and arrogant, chatting animatedly with the people around him. That was Chad Kensington. And beside him sat a woman who looked like she was carved from ice and snow. That was Victoria Sterling. Even after seeing her 10,000 times, I had to admit, this woman was unreasonably beautiful, cold, noble, appearing completely detached from the mundane world. Chad saw me, frowned, and waved his hand in disgust. Why are you so late? Get in the back and stand against the wall. Don't be an eyesore. Everyone's eyes focused on me. Some held pity, some mockery, some schadenfreude. In the past, I would have died of shame. But now, I smiled. I walked right up to Chad Kensington. Under his bewildered gaze, I pulled out the chair next to Victoria Sterling and sat down, manspreading comfortably. The entire conference room went dead silent. It was as if someone had hit the pause button on reality. Chad's eyes bulged like copper bells. He pointed a trembling finger at my nose, his lips quivering with rage. You, who the hell do you think you are? I'll let you sit here. I ignored him. Instead, I turned my head to look at Victoria beside me. She was looking at me too, her cold eyes holding a trace of scrutiny and confusion. True to her ice goddess title, even being offended like this didn't crack her expression. I winked at her, flashing what I considered my most charming smile. Ms. Sterling, I am Caleb Breed. I've heard a lot about you. Seeing you today, the legends don't do you justice. Victoria frowned slightly, but didn't speak. Her assistant had already stood up, face cold. Sir, please leave immediately, or we will call security. Don't be like that. I waved my hand and pulled a lollipop from my pocket, strawberry flavor. I tore off the wrapper and held it out to Victoria. Ms. Sterling, a little gift for our first meeting. A token of my respect. This time, even Victoria's mask cracked. She looked at the lollipop dangling in front of her face, her eyes clearly asking, is this guy mentally ill? Chad finally recovered from the shock. He slammed the table, roaring, Caleb, are you out of your fucking mind? Security. Where the hell is security? I sighed, took the lollipop back, and popped it into my own mouth. Sweet. I looked at Chad and said slowly, Prince Chad, don't be so angry. Today is a great day for signing contracts. Getting worked up is bad for your health. Saying that, I turned to Victoria with a face full of sincerity. Ms. Sterling, you might not know this, but Prince Chad sacrificed a lot for today's signing. Chad froze, clearly not expecting me to speak up for him. He puffed out his chest proudly, glancing at me with disdain, as if to say, at least you know your place. Victoria's gaze fell on me again, seeming curious about what game I was playing. I licked the lollipop and continued. For instance, to be in top form, he went for a full-body spa treatment yesterday. Specifically, he got a Brazilian wax for that tight, ass he's so proud of. Puffed. Somewhere in the conference room, someone couldn't hold it in and snorted. Immediately after, suppressed laughter rippled through the room. Chad's face went from white to red to purple, and finally settled on a shade of liver maroon. He pointed at me, his fingers shaking like he had Parkinson's. You're talking bullshit. I didn't. Oh, really? I feigned surprise. But I heard you even switched to the latest style of red lace thong panties because a psychic told you it brings good luck. Am I remembering wrong? Boom! The conference room exploded. Everyone was scanning Chad's lower half with incredibly weird looks, trying to imagine a 6-foot-something grown man squeezed into a red lace thong. The mental image was too potent. Many people were already red-faced, shoulders shaking violently. Even the corner of Victoria's mouth seemed to twitch uncontrollably. Her look at Chad was filled with indescribably complex emotions. Caleb, I'm going to kill you. Chad completely snapped. Like a raging bull, he roared and charged at me. I sat in the chair, not moving a muscle. Just as he reached me, I gently extended my foot. Thud, Chad tripped over his own feet, or rather mine, and executed a magnificent faceplant, prostrating himself on the floor. The fatal part was that he was wearing very slim-fit dress pants today. With such a violent fall, and given the pants weren't exactly military grade. Rear up, a tearing sound echoed. A split appeared from the back of his waistband all the way down to his thigh. A flash of bright, vivid crimson peeked out from the gap in the black trousers. The air in the room solidified instantly. Everyone's gaze was nailed to that flash of flamboyant red. Time seemed to freeze for 3 seconds. Then, wahaha! Oh my God, it's true. Red lace. Gag. The conference room erupted in unprecedented, raucous laughter. Chad Kensington lay on the floor, wishing the earth would swallow him whole. I sat there with a lollipop in my mouth, looking at his wretched state, grinning like a 200-pound toddler. 10,000 loops, and this was the most socially decimated I'd ever seen him. Satisfying. Amidst the chaos, I noticed Victoria Sterling wasn't laughing. She was just staring at me quietly. For the first time, Those icy eyes held a depth I couldn't read. As if asking, "Who are you really?" Chad was escorted out by security. When he left, he was clutching his butt, crying as he ran. That image added a festive touch to this beautiful morning. The conference room was in shambles. Naturally, the signing ceremony couldn't continue. Buzz Miller ran over, trembling, pointing at me, unable to form a coherent sentence. "Caleb, why you're fired? Get the hell out of here. Now." The way he looked at me now was like looking at a grim reaper here to collect souls. I shrugged indifferently, standing up from the chair, ready to welcome step 4 of today's routine, getting fired. However, a cold voice suddenly cut through the noise. "Wait." It was Victoria. Everyone quieted down, looking at her. She stood up and walked over to me, step by step. At 5'9", plus heels, she was taller than me by half a head. A pleasant, cool fragrance washed over me. In the past 9,999 loops, the closest I'd ever been to her was when she walked past me, leaving a breeze of expensive perfume. This was the first time I looked at her from such a close distance. Her skin was white as porcelain, eyelashes long, pupils a beautiful light hazel. "Your name is Caleb Reed?" She spoke, her voice devoid of warmth. "Yep, Ms. Sterling." I still had the lollipop in my mouth, so my speech was a bit slurred. "Why did you do that?" she asked. She had never asked this question before. In previous loops, she would just act like a queen high above, watching the farce with cold detachment, then turn and leave without taking cloud with her. Did the sun rise in the west today? Looking at her probing gaze, a fun idea suddenly popped into my head. I took the lollipop out of my mouth. Mimicking the overbearing CEOs in movies, I reached out to lift her chin. Of course, I didn't dare actually touch her. My hand hovered a centimeter from her skin. I lowered my voice, using a tone that was magnetic and devilish. "Woman, you have successfully caught my attention. Victoria." Her assistant behind her. My colleagues in the room. Everyone looked at me like I was the world's greatest idiot. Victoria's cheek seemed to twitch slightly. She was silent for a full 5 seconds before slowly speaking. "Do you have an agenda?" I paused. This reaction was wrong. According to the normal script, shouldn't she look disgusted and tell me to get lost? Or call security to drag me out? What did she mean by agenda? I looked into her cold eyes and saw seriousness? An absurd thought flashed through my mind. Could she be? I cleared my throat, deciding to continue my performance. I pulled my hand back, took a step back, looked up at the ceiling at a 45-degree angle, my eyes melancholic. "Agenda? You wouldn't understand my agenda. Everything I did was just to let you see that man's true face. He doesn't deserve you. A flawless woman like you shouldn't be sullied by trash like him." After speaking, I turned my head and gazed at her affectionately. "Victoria, I did all of this for you." This cheesy dialogue was the concentrated essence extracted from 800 soap operas. Saying it out loud gave me goosebumps. However, to my shock, Victoria didn't get angry. Instead, she fell into deep thought. Her brow furrowed, her eyes shifting, seemingly undergoing an intense internal brainstorm. After a long while, she looked up at me with a complex expression. "So, you deliberately acted insane to expose Chad's true nature, while avoiding putting me in a difficult position with direct evidence." "Me, huh?" She continued her self-analysis. "You used seemingly absurd behavior to make him expose himself in public. This way, you achieved the goal while minimizing the damage to me. Because everyone will think this was a farce, not a humiliating betrayal." "Me? WH what?" The look she gave me shifted from complex to realization, and finally, it carried a hint of appreciation. "I see. You seem to be messing around, but every step was within your calculation. Using the most extreme method to achieve the most perfect result." She took a deep breath, as if making a major decision. "Caleb Reed, right?" "Present," I answered subconsciously. "You're fired," Buzz Miller interjected from the side. Victoria glanced at him coldly. "From now on, you're no longer an employee of this company." She paused, then said something that almost made me swallow my lollipop whole. "You're coming with me. You're my new assistant." Me, Caleb Reed, a veteran mental patient who had laid flat for over 7,000 loops. Today, in the 10,000th loop, I successfully applied to be the Ice Goddess CEO's assistant. I had never acted out this script before. Buzz Miller was stupefied, mouth open wide enough to fit an egg. Ms. Sterling, this isn't protocol, right? He's just a low-level clerk and a lunatic." Victoria didn't even look at him. She just stared at me. "You don't want to?" I blinked. "Want to? Why wouldn't I? Everything resets tomorrow anyway. Today, let alone being an assistant. Even if she asked me to be her dad, I dare to agree. Duh. Of course I do. I immediately stood at attention, face serious. Serving Miss Sterling is the honor of my life. The corner of Victoria's mouth seemed to curve up almost imperceptibly. Good. Now follow me. She turned, heels clicking, leaving me with a dashing silhouette. I followed happily behind her. Passing Buzz, I stopped and patted his stiff shoulder. Buzz, I'm Ms. Sterling's man now. Our little grudges from before are wiped clean, all right? Buzz looked like he'd eaten a fly. I ignored him and followed Victoria out of the conference room, leaving a room full of people who hadn't recovered from the shock. Victoria's actual assistant, Ms. Graves, a capable woman in gold-rimmed glasses, hurriedly caught up, whispering in Victoria's ear. I have good hearing. I heard everything clearly. Ms. Sterling, are you really going to use him? This man's mental state is obviously unstable. He's too dangerous. Victoria didn't stop walking, her voice flat. Ms. Graves, you judge people only by the surface. A man who dares to take down Chad Kensington in that setting, using that method, do you think he's a simple lunatic? Ms. Graves post. You mean? His madness is his camouflage. Every move he made hit Chad exactly where it hurt. That's not madness. That is extreme calm and precise calculation. There is a note of appreciation in Victoria's voice I'd never heard before. Leaving talent like this as a background prop in the project department is a waste. Following behind, I was dumbfounded. Camouflage my ass. Calm and calculation my ass. Lady, I just purely wanted to see Chad make a fool of himself and have some fun. Your ability to fill in the blanks. If you don't write novels, it's a loss to literature. We walked all the way to the underground parking lot. Victoria's ride was a black Bentley. The driver held the rear door open. Victoria got in, then looked at me. Get in. I dove in without hesitation. The interior was spacious, filled with the same cold fragrance as her. Ms. Graves sat in the passenger seat. The car drove smoothly out of the garage. I watched the streetscape retreating rapidly outside the window, feeling a bit strange. Usually at this time, I'd have been fired walking down this street in a daze, waiting for the death guaranteed to arrive before midnight. Today, I was sitting in a luxury car worth millions, serving as the ice goddess's assistant. Life really is full of ups and downs. Caleb, Victoria spoke suddenly. Here, what are your orders, Ms. Sterling? I switched instantly to assistant mode. She turned, those beautiful eyes watching me quietly. Regarding Chad Kensington, what else do you know? I chuckled internally. Here it comes. The main topic. What I knew. Too much. Enough to write a 1,000,000-word encyclopedia titled The Black History of Chad Kensington. Like how he has foot fungus, but never admits it, spraying half a bottle of cologne daily. Like how he's afraid of dogs. A 3-pound teacup poodle can make him wet his pants. Like how in college, he wrote 300 love poems to chase a girl, only for her to read them publicly, socially executing him for 4 years. Where should I start? I clear my throat, ready to speak. Suddenly, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, frowned, and swiped to answer. From the other end came a woman's hysterical screaming and crying. Victoria, come quick. Chad. He's going to jump. Chad Kensington jumping off a building. Almost laughed out loud. That coward? Give him 10 times the guts, and he wouldn't dare. Sure enough, the woman on the phone sobbed an explanation. He locked himself in the office. Says he has no face to see anyone. He's going to jump out the window. We can't talk him down. This woman was Chad's aunt and the company vice president. Usually, she relied on her royal connections to act like a tyrant. Victoria's face went cold. Understand. She hung up and told the driver, back to the company. Then, she turned to me, her eyes complex. Is this also part of your plan? I blinked, looking innocent. Ms. Sterling, what do you mean? Retreating to advance. Using suicide to gain sympathy, so I'll rescind the breakup. She spoke coldly. That's about the extent of Chad's intelligence. I mentally applauded her. As expected of a female CEO, her mind was sharp. However, Ms. Sterling, I think you might be misunderstanding. I said with a straight face. Prince Chad might actually be serious this time. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Oh, think about it. I started spewing nonsense. What is the most important thing to a man? Dignity. Today, his dignity was trampled under my feet and ground into dust in front of everyone. Especially that brilliant flash of crimson. It will become a nightmare he can never shake for the rest of his life. I spoke with deep emotion, as if I truly regretted Chad's misfortune. Victoria fell silent. In the front seat, Ms. Graves watched me through the rearview mirror, looking at me like I was a monster. The car quickly arrived back downstairs. As soon as we got out, Chad's aunt threw herself at us, wailing, "Victoria, you're finally back. Go talk to Chad. He only listens to you." Victoria pushed her away expressionlessly. "Which floor?" "Top floor. The president's office." Our group rushed to the top floor. A crowd had gathered outside the office door. Buzz Miller was there too, sweating profusely. The door was locked from the inside. Chad's heart-wrenching cries came from within. "I can't live like this. Don't try to stop me. Let me die. Today it's him or me. Where's Caleb? Find that bastard Caleb for me. Oh look, he's still thinking of me." When Chad's aunt saw me, her eyes turned red. She pointed and screamed, "It's you. You jinx. You ruined Chad. I'm telling you, if anything happens to him, I'll make you be buried with him." I dug a finger in my ear, ignoring her. Victoria walked to the door, voice cold. "Chad, open the door." The crying inside paused. "Victoria, is that you?" Chad's voice carried a sob and a hint of surprise. "It's me. Victoria, I'm sorry. I was framed by that Caleb guy. I wasn't wearing red underwear. He slandered me." Still lying through his teeth. I curled my lip. Victoria said flatly, "I know. Open the door first, we can talk properly." "No, I want to open it." Chad started throwing a tantrum again. "Unless you promise me you'll fire that bastard Caleb. Make him kneel and apologize to me, or I'll jump right now." Everyone's eyes focused on me again. Victoria turned to look at me too. I spread my hands, signaling helplessness. Victoria was silent for a few seconds, then said to the door, "Okay, I promise. Open the door." Inside, Chad was overjoyed. "Really? Victoria, you're really willing to fire him for me?" "Really?" I saw Ms. Graves behind Victoria wearing a look that said I knew it. Buzz looked at me with pure, gloating satisfaction. My heart remained unmoved. It's just a game anyway. "Then make him kneel and apologize." Chad pushed his luck. Victoria looked at me again, a trace of apology in her eyes. I smiled and took a step forward, shouting at the door panel, "Prince Chad, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have exposed the secret of your red lace thong. I'm kneeling right now." I spoke with great emotion, barely stopping myself from squeezing out 2 tears. But I didn't kneel. Just kidding. Men have gold under their knees. Chad behind the door seemed satisfied, letting out a triumphant laugh. "That's more like it. Victoria, you heard him. Now, announce immediately that we're getting married next month." At this, Victoria's face went completely cold. "Chad, haven't you made enough of a scene?" "I'm not making a scene. If you don't agree today, I'll die to show you." Stalemate. I yawned, feeling a bit bored. I walked up to Victoria and whispered, "Ms. Sterling, how about letting me handle it?" Victoria glanced at me, asking skeptically, "You have a plan?" "I have my ways." I walked to the door, cleared my throat, and in an extremely exaggerated tone, mimicking Chad's voice, I shouted, I, the handsome, dashing, debonair Chad Kensington, am going to perish today. My 8-pack abs, my charming smile, no one will ever see them again, and the 300 photo albums hidden under my bed. The covers are all me. What a pity I can't pass them down to future generations." Inside, Chad's crying stopped abruptly. Outside, everyone turned to stone. I ignored them and continued my performance. "After I die, please scatter my ashes in the ocean." "No, scatter them at the mall, so I can keep looking at hot chicks." "Right? My Swiss bank account. The password is my first girlfriend's birthday. Victoria, don't you dare find out. And that Lamborghini in my garage, I bought it behind her back, don't you dare." Enough. From inside came Chad's exasperated roar. "Caleb, shut your fucking mouth." I looked innocent. "Prince Chad, I'm helping you read your eulogy. Just a rehearsal, in case they don't read it well later and it doesn't fit your noble status." You. Chad was so angry he couldn't speak. I saw the door handle twitch. Got him. I decided to add more fuel. I turned to Victoria. "Ms. Sterling, since Prince Chad is determined to die, let's help him fulfill his wish. I already found a feng shui master who says if he jumps at this hour, in his next life he'll be reincarnated as a woman. Maybe even a stunning beauty." "Caleb," bang! The office door was kicked open from the inside. Chad Kensington stood in the doorway, eyes bloodshot, looking like an enraged beast. He didn't look at anyone else. He stared dead at me. "I want you dead." He roared and lunged at me. However, the moment he rushed out the door, his foot stepped on something small and round. It was a strawberry lollipop I had accidentally dropped on the floor earlier. "Oh!" Chad let out a scream, his body losing balance. In an extremely twisted posture, he went tumbling, thump thump, down the stairs. The sound of Chad rolling down the stairs was like a festive string of firecrackers echoing in the quiet hallway. Thud, 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 ouch, crash, bang my back. When he finally stopped, he was lying on the landing of the floor below, like a pile of mud, groaning, unable to get up. Everyone watched, dumbfounded. No one expected a thrilling suicide crisis to end in such a slapstick manner. Chad's aunt screamed and scrambled down the stairs. Chad, my Chad. Victoria stood still, looking at the well, then at me. The emotions in her eyes were 100 times more complex than before. I spread my hands, picked up the meritorious lollipop from the floor, blew off the dust, and popped it back in my mouth. Ms. Sterling, see? Problem solved. Victoria was silent for a long time before squeezing a few words through her teeth. That lollipop, was that intentional? How is that possible? I looked righteous. I just didn't hold it tight enough. Who knew Prince Chad was so fragile? Really unfortunate. I trusted that my expression was full of sincerity. Victoria gave me a deep look, didn't speak again, and turned to walk downstairs. Out of courtesy and protocol, she had to check on her fiancé's miserable state. Ms. Graves followed closely. Passing me, she paused, looking at me like I was a wizard, and whispered, Mr. Reed, you are a genius. After saying that, she hurried after Victoria. I smiled. Genius? No, I'm just a veteran player who has played Tetris 9,999 times and finally cleared the game. The surrounding colleagues looked at me not as an idiot anymore, but as a demon. They parted to make a path for me, as if I carried a virus. Buzz Miller was hiding behind the crowd, face pale with fear. I ignored them and leisurely walked downstairs. Downstairs, medics had arrived and were doing a preliminary check on Chad. He lay on a stretcher, bruised and swollen, one leg twisted at a gruesome angle, still groaning incessantly. My leg is broken. Caleb, I'll haunt you even as a ghost. I walked up to him, squatted down, and asked with concern, Prince Chad, are you okay? Should I call you an ambulance? Seeing me, Chad's eyes instantly filled with blood. He struggled to sit up. It's you. You caused this. I quickly held him down. Don't move, don't move. Broken bones take 100 days to heal. With this leg, you'll probably be in bed for a year or so. Just you wait. I won't let you get away with this. He gritted his teeth. I sighed, pulled my phone from my pocket, and tapped the recording app. Prince Chad, upstairs just now. Did you say you wanted to fire me and make me kneel and apologize? Chad paused. I continued, Ms. Sterling promised you personally. But now that you've been accidentally injured by me, do you think, Ms. Sterling might feel I'm deliberately retaliating against you and send me to the police station? Chad's face changed. He was stupid, but not brain dead. He knew Victoria's promise earlier was just a stalling tactic. Now that his tantrum had ended in embarrassment and a broken leg, Victoria wouldn't sympathize. She'd only despise him more. If he pursued my responsibility now, it would undoubtedly nail him to the pillar of shame for being unreasonable. What do you want? His voice went weak. I smiled. I leaned into his ear and whispered, simple. From now on, forget the person named Caleb Reed. Everything that happened today was just an accident. You broke your leg because of a lollipop I accidentally dropped. Do you understand? Chad looked at me with humiliation, teeth grinding loudly. I waved the phone in front of his eyes. Of course, you can choose not to cooperate. My life is worthless anyway. I don't care what happens tomorrow. But you? Chad's body shivered. He was scared. People like him, born with a silver spoon, were most afraid of crazy people like me who had nothing to lose. Fine. He squeezed 2 words out through his teeth. It was an accident. That's the spirit. I put away the phone with satisfaction and stood up. Victoria was standing not far away, watching us quietly. I didn't know how much she heard. I smiled at her and turned to leave. I'd had enough fun today. Time to find a place to welcome the arrival of midnight. Caleb, she stopped me again. I looked back. Any other orders, Ms. Sterling? Come with me. She finished speaking and turned toward another elevator. I was a bit curious, so I followed. The elevator went all the way up, stopping at the roof terrace. The wind was strong, messing up my hair. Victoria stood at the edge of the roof, overlooking the city below, silent. After a long time, she spoke. Who are you really? Here we go again. I licked my lips, deciding to switch scripts. Me? I pointed at my nose, looking mysterious. I come from the future. Victoria turned her head, her nice brows raising slightly. Oh, then tell me, what happens in the future? In the future, I paused, looking into her eyes, emphasizing every word. You fall in love with me. Saying this, even I felt a bit flushed. Too shameful. But Victoria didn't laugh, nor did she get angry. She just looked at me quietly, her cold eyes like a deep pool, impenetrable. Is that so? She asked faintly. Why would I fall in love with you? Because. I stalled. Why? How the hell should I know why? I was just making it up. Looking at her inquisitive eyes, I bit the bullet and started weaving a tale. Because, in the near future, Sterling Capital encounters an unprecedented crisis. Everyone is helpless. Only I can help you turn the tide. And you, in the process of fighting side by side, will gradually be conquered by my talent and charm, finally falling hopelessly in love with me. As I spoke, I gave myself a thumbs up. What a classic plot. Victoria listened and fell silent. The wind blew her long hair, strands of it brushing against my face, ticklish. What crisis? She asked. Heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. I waved my hand, acting profound. Actually, I just couldn't make anything up. Victoria looked at me and suddenly smiled. It was the first time in 10,000 meetings that I saw her smile, like a snow lotus blooming instantly on a frozen mountain. Beautiful. So beautiful my heart skipped a beat. Caleb, she said smiling, you are very interesting. This was the third evaluation she gave me today. From having an agenda, to being a talent, to very interesting. My image in her heart was certainly versatile. Average. It's just that everyone else sets a low bar. I replied humbly. Her smile deepened. You said earlier that everything you did was for me? Of course. I nodded like a bobblehead. Then what reward do you want? She asked. I froze. Reward? I hadn't thought about that. Since everything resets tomorrow anyway, what use is a reward? Can't take money, can't take a person. I looked at her, and countless ridiculous thoughts flashed through my mind. Like asking her to kiss me? Or call me Big Brother? No, too creepy. Caleb Reed, might be crazy, but I'm a classy crazy. I thought for a moment and said, my reward is simple. Speak. From now until midnight tonight, you, Victoria Sterling, must listen to me completely. I made a request that even I found absurd. Victoria's smile slowly faded. She looked at me, her gaze becoming sharp again. Are you sure? I'm sure. I met her gaze without flinching. Do you dare to bet? She was gambling that I wasn't just a simple lunatic. I was gambling on how heavy her damn curiosity about me actually was. We stared at each other on the roof for a full minute. The wind howled. Finally, she slowly nodded. Okay, keep it. I won. I looked at Victoria, my heart blooming with joy. Making a billionaire Ice Queen CEO obey me for the next few hours? The thrill was intoxicating just thinking about it. So Ms. Sterling, I clear my throat, issue my first command. Please, right now, immediately go to the convenience store downstairs and buy me a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos. The small bag. Victoria. Ms. Graves behind her. Ms. Graves looked like she had just heard aliens were invading Earth. Mr. Reed, don't push it. Think of Ms. Sterling's status. How could she go buy that kind of junk food for you? She retorted excitedly. Victoria raised a hand, stopping her. She looked at me, a trace of inquiry in her eyes. This is your first command? Yes. I nodded. Why? No reason. I just suddenly craved them. I said righteously. Victoria gave me a deep look. Then, she actually turned and walked toward the elevator. Ms. Graves was about to cry. Ms. Sterling, you can't go. If someone takes a picture. Victoria didn't look back, leaving only a cool voice behind. Abedi Sabith. The elevator doors closed. Ms. Graves looked at me with despair, as if looking at a treacherous concubine destroying the kingdom. What exactly are you trying to do? She hissed. I told you I want Cheetos. I blinked innocently. About 10 minutes later, Victoria returned. In her hand, she really held a bag of bright red flamin' hot Cheetos. The classic kind. She handed the Cheetos to me. Her face was expressionless, but the tips of her ears seemed to have a suspicious blush. I could imagine the scene. A female CEO in a high-end suit, radiating power, walking into a bodega full of guys buying cigarettes and lottery tickets, telling the owner, one small bag of Cheetos, please. That image must have been beautiful. I tore open the bag, took one out, and handed it to her. Here, Ms. Sterling. You try one too. A delicacy of a mortal world. Ms. Graves' face was beyond ugly. She looked ready to die on the spot. Victoria looked at the greasy, red-dusted snack, her brow furrowed tight enough to kill a fly. I don't eat this. She refused flatly. Nope. I shook my head. My second command is that you must eat it with me. You, Ms. Graves trembled with rage. Victoria's face went cold too. Caleb, don't push your luck. Ms. Sterling, abeti sabet. I returned her words exactly. She looked at me. I looked at her. Sparks seemed to fly in the air. Finally, she compromised. She closed her eyes like she was marching to the gallows, opened her mouth slightly, and took a small bite. Then her eyes snapped open. In those cold eyes, there was a flash of surprise, a flash of shock, and a trace of light. How is it? Good, right? I asked smugly. She didn't speak, just chewed silently. Then, under the shocked gazes of Ms. Graves and myself, she took another big bite. Soon, one Cheeto was gone. She held out her hand. More. Me? Ms. Graves. I silently handed her the whole bag. She took it and ate one after another with relish, completely losing the facing execution look from earlier. Watching her cold, exquisite face, her lips slightly reddened by the spice dust, I suddenly felt that this ice goddess maybe wasn't so detached from humanity after all. She looked like a little girl caught stealing snacks. Kind of cute. I shook my head, tossing that dangerous thought out of my mind. All right, Ms. Sterling, we've eaten. Time for the next activity. Victoria looked up, lips glistening with oil. What activity? I smiled mysteriously. Taking you to a good place. The place I took Victoria was an arcade, a loud, flashy Dave and Buster's type place. When I stood at the entrance and told her, our third project today is to dominate this place, Victoria and Ms. Graves wore identical expressions of dull shock. Caleb, Victoria finally found her voice, sounding very uncertain. Are you sure about this? Absolutely. I pulled a handful of tokens from my pocket. I'd liberated them from a claw machine during a board loop. Let's go. I'll show you how to fly. Ignoring their reactions, I walked in first. Deafening music, flashing neon lights, and the excited shouts of teenagers washed over us. Victoria clearly had never set foot in such a place. She stood there, frowning at everything, looking completely out of place, like a fairy who accidentally fell into the mortal realm. Ms. Graves was even more resistant, covering her nose with a tissue as if the air here was toxic. I walked to a Dance Dance Revolution machine and shoved a handful of tokens at a chubby kid in a school uniform. Little bro, I'm booking this machine. Take this money and buy everyone sodas. The kid stared at the heavy tokens, eyes wide, cheered, and ran to the counter with his friends. I stepped onto the dance platform and crooked a finger at Victoria. Come on, Ms. Sterling. Time to show your moves. Victoria stood motionless, her face writing, Are you kidding me? My fourth command, I looked at her slowly. Get up here and dance with me. Ms. Graves panicked. Mr. Reed, how could Ms. Sterling possibly dance to this? If she can't, she can learn. I selected a track with the most explosive beat. Life is about experience. The music started. I began stomping frantically on the machine. After so many loops, I dared not claim other skills, but flailing my arms and stomping on DDR, I was max level. My movements were fluid, my style aggressively flamboyant. Instantly, I became the center of attention. A crowd gathered, erupting in cheers and screams. Holy crap, this guy's a pro. Dance King, Dance King. Amidst the noise, I saw Victoria standing quietly outside the crowd, watching me dance wildly under the lights. Her gaze was strange. No mockery, no impatience, just a focus I couldn't interpret. When the song ended, I struck what I thought was a cool pose. The crowd gave thunderous applause. I jumped off the machine, walked to Victoria, sweat dripping from my forehead. Well, Ms. Sterling, you're up. Everyone's eyes focused on Victoria. They probably thought she was a shill I hired or some hidden dance queen. Victoria stood under everyone's gaze, silent for a moment. Then, she bent down and took off her high heels. Barefoot, step by step, she walked onto that multicolored stage. The crowd gasped. I was stunned too. I just wanted to embarrass her a little. I never thought she'd actually go up. She stood firm, looked back at me. That look held a desperate resolve and a hint of provocation. She said to me, pick the hardest one. Possessed by something, I nodded and chose the legendary boss song. The music started. On the screen, arrows fell like a waterfall. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. However, Victoria moved. Her movements were raw and stiff. She couldn't keep the rhythm. Her limbs were uncoordinated. She missed every beat, earning a screen full of miss. She looked like a clumsy penguin trying to imitate a swan. It was ridiculous. Scattered laughter came from the surroundings. But I couldn't laugh. I watched her. I watched her lips press tight, fine sweat beading on her forehead, her eyes incredibly focused. She didn't retreat because of the ridicule, nor give up because of her clumsiness. She was just seriously, effortlessly trying to complete the absurd command I gave her. In that moment, something in my heart seemed to be gently struck. Music ended. A big fat F on the screen. The crowd was silent. Victoria panted, holding the machine's safety bar, her face pale. She turned to look at me, a ball of stubborn fire burning in those cold eyes. "I finished," she said. Her voice was hoarse, but carried an imperceptible pride. Looking at her, I suddenly felt this woman was 10,000 times cuter than I imagined. I walked up, and under the surprised gazes of her and everyone else, I took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders. Then, right in front of everyone, I bowed deeply to her. "Ms. Sterling," I whispered, "you are the true dance king in my heart." Coming out of the arcade, the sky had darkened. Victoria wore my cheap suit jacket, walking barefoot on the sidewalk. Ms. Graves followed, carrying the expensive heels, her expression numb. She had probably given up on saving her boss. "What's the next project?" Victoria asked, a hint of expectation in her voice she didn't even notice. I looked at her. Streetlights spilled onto her face, plating her cold features in a soft glow. Her lips were still red, maybe from the Cheetos, maybe from the exercise. I suddenly felt that just walking down the street with her like this wasn't bad. "Next project," I said, "is dinner." I took them to a roadside food stall, a dive bar with outdoor seating. Greasy tables, plastic stools, the air smelling of cumin and stale beer. Ms. Graves' face went 3 shades whiter. Victoria was calm. She found a seat and sat down. I ordered 2 big platters of skewers, 30 lamb, 20 chicken wings, and a bunch of random veggies, plus 3 bottles of ice-cold beer. "Ms. Sterling, my 5th command. Tonight, we don't go home until we're drunk." I placed a beer bottle in front of her. Victoria looked at the sweating bottle, then at me. "Caleb, do you think I don't dare?" "No." I shook my head, speaking seriously. "I just think you need to get drunk once. Holding it in every day, tight as a wire, acting like an emotionless machine. Doesn't it get tiring?" Victoria fell silent. She picked up the bottle, popped the cap with the opener, and poured herself a full glass. Foam spilled over, wetting her fingers. She raised the glass, toasted me, and downed it in one go. Clean and crisp, bolder than me. I paused, then picked up my glass, clinked it with hers, and drained it. Spicy. The cold liquid slid down my throat like a knife. We didn't speak, just drank cup after cup. Ms. Graves watched us, wanting to speak, but stopping, finally resigning herself to silently gnawing on a grilled leek. I didn't know Victoria's tolerance. My own tolerance was honed in the countless midnights of the loop, drinking alone at the moon. I could drink 1,000 cups. But today I wanted to get drunk. 3 bottles were gone quickly. 2 beautiful blushes appeared on Victoria's face, her eyes becoming hazy. She didn't cry or make a scene like other drunks. She just sat quietly, looking at me. "Caleb," she spoke suddenly. "Yeah. Did you really come back from the future?" "Yep." I burped. "Then the future me really fell in love with you. Madly." I lied without blinking. "You cut ties with your family for me, gave up a $1 billion fortune, just to open a Cheetos factory with me." Victoria actually laughed. She rested her head on the table, looking at me sideways, smiling like a child. "Cheetos factory. Sounds actually not bad." Her voice was soft and sticky, carrying a drunken lilt, a complete departure from her usual cold self. I looked at her, my heart racing traitorously again. "Caleb," she called me again. "What? Why? Are you so good to me?" I froze. Me? Good to her? I made her eat junk food in public, made her embarrass herself on a dance machine, made her sit at a greasy stall drinking cheap beer. This is called being good to her? I looked into her misty eyes, seeing my own reflection. Possessed by a ghost, I spoke the truth from my heart. "Because I've seen you cry." Victoria's smile froze. "In many days, I've seen you hiding in your car, crying secretly because of Chad's betrayal. I've seen you drink until you had stomach bleeding alone in your office because of family pressure. I've even seen you, after a successful signing, facing an empty conference room, showing a smile that was uglier than crying." I looked at her, enunciating every word. "Victoria, you live too exhaustingly. So, I just wanted you, in this day that resets infinitely, to live for yourself once, even if only for a few hours." After I finished, silence fell. Only the sound of skewers sizzling on the grill remained. Ms. Graves had stopped eating her leek, staring at me dumbfounded. Victoria lay on the table, motionless. I thought she had fallen asleep. A long time later, I saw a crystal drop of liquid slide from the corner of her eye, hitting the greasy table, spreading into a small watermark. Then a second, a third. She was crying. No sound, just silently shedding tears, like a child who had been wronged, but didn't know who to tell. My heart felt like it was squeezed hard by an invisible hand. Painful. I didn't know how long she cried. When she finally stopped, the skewers were cold. She lifted her head, eyes red like a rabbit. But her gaze was unprecedentedly clear. She looked at me and asked, "Caleb, is what you said true?" I nodded. "Then why didn't you tell me sooner?" I gave a bitter laugh. "If I told you, would you believe me? Before today, if I told you Chad was a scumbag, would you believe me? If I told you that you didn't have to live so tiredly, that you could do whatever you wanted, would you believe me? You wouldn't. You would only treat me as a lunatic with an agenda." Victoria was silent, because what I said was fact. If I hadn't started today with such extreme madness, if not for her damn active imagination, she wouldn't have given me a chance to speak. So she looked at me, a fragility in her eyes I'd never seen. "You watched me, like a fool kept in the dark, repeating this how many times?" 10,000 times. I whispered. Victoria's body trembled violently. 10,000 times. She repeated these 3 words, her face instantly pale. She looked at me, eyes full of shock, heartache, and a complex emotion I couldn't describe. "You alone experienced 10,000 days?" "Yeah." I shrugged, feigning lightness. "So now you know why I'm crazy, right? If it were you, you'd be crazy too." Victoria didn't speak. She just looked at me, eyes red again. Ms. Graves aside was completely dumbfounded. She looked at me, then at Victoria, her worldview clearly undergoing a violent collapse and reconstruction. Time loop? This was more absurd than her boss buying Cheetos. So, Victoria took a deep breath, tried to calm her emotions. Today, we'll still reset. I checked my phone. 11:00 p.m. 1 hour left. I said. Victoria's eyes instantly dimmed. "Then everything we did today, everything we said, will disappear tomorrow, right? Only I will remember, right?" Her voice carried a trace of despair. I nodded. She closed her eyes, teardrops still hanging on her long lashes. "Caleb," she opened her eyes again, her gaze becoming unusually firm. "Do you have any more commands?" "What?" I didn't react. "You said, before midnight. I must obey you completely." She looked at me, speaking word by word. "Now, I am willing. For the last hour, whatever you want to do, I'll accompany you." Looking at those eyes, burning with fire, my heart pounded uncooperatively. I took a deep breath and stood up. "Okay, my final command." I extended my hand to her. "Victoria, let's elope." "Elope?" Victoria and Ms. Graves asked in unison. "Yes, elope." I nodded. "Right now, let's leave here, go somewhere no one knows us." "Where to?" Victoria asked. "To the beach." I said, "I want to see the sunrise." In 10,000 loops, I had seen countless sunsets, but never once a sunrise, because I always woke up in bed before the sun came up. "Okay." Victoria didn't hesitate. She stood up and placed her hand in my palm. Her hand was cold but soft. I squeezed tight, turned, and ran. "Ms. Sterling." Ms. Graves jumped anxiously behind us. "Ms. Graves, go back first," Victoria called back to her. "Tomorrow, just pretend nothing happened." With that, she followed me, disappearing into the night. We didn't take a car, we just ran along the road. Like 2 lunatics escaping reality. The night wind blew past our ears, carrying the summer heat. My heart was unprecedentedly calm, yet fiery. I don't know how long we ran. When we stopped, we could smell the salt in the air. We were at the beach. The midnight beach was quiet. Only the sound of waves hitting the sand, over and over, tireless. We sat on the sand. Victoria took off my jacket, and also her expensive suit jacket, wearing only the white shirt and dress pants underneath. She rolled her sleeves to her elbows, revealing pale arms. She hugged her knees, looking at the dark sea, thinking about something. "Caleb, tell me, if today doesn't reset, what happens?" I froze. If today doesn't reset, Chad would really break my legs. I would be fired, saddled with huge debt, and her, Victoria, would become the laughingstock of the business world because of this elopement. Her family would absolutely destroy me. If today doesn't reset, I thought for a moment, we should be on the run right now. Victoria laughed. "Sounds exciting." I laughed too. "Yeah, exciting, but also stupid." We sat quietly, no one speaking. The waves were the only background music. I checked my phone. 11:50 p.m. 10 minutes left. In 10 minutes, everything goes back to square one. She will turn back into that high and mighty ice goddess, forgetting the taste of Cheetos, the rhythm of the dance machine, the beer at the dive bar, and forgetting me. And I will wake up again at that damn 7 a.m., continuing my endless, lonely cycle. A massive sense of loss drowned me instantly. For the first time, I hated this loop so much. Caleb, Victoria suddenly turned her head, looking at me seriously. If tomorrow, if I still remember everything that happened today, what will you do? Looking at her eyes, shockingly bright under the moonlight, my heart felt like it was wrenched hard. If you remember tomorrow, I heard my voice trembling, then I will really take you to elope. Open a Cheetos factory, have a bunch of kids. Deal. She nodded with a smile, tears glistening in her eyes. Pinky promise. She extended her pinky finger. I extended mine, hooking it with hers. Pinky promise. The phone screen lit up. 11:59 p. The last minute. I looked at her face, so close to mine, at her teary eyes, at her slightly red lips. A crazy thought exploded in my brain. I leaned forward abruptly, in the last second before the time reset. I kissed her. Her lips were as soft as I imagined, carrying a hint of beer bitterness and a lingering spice of Cheetos. The world spun in that moment. Then darkness. The familiar alarm sounded in my ear. 7 a.m. I snapped my eyes open, bolting upright in bed. Heart pounding, breathing fast. I looked around. Familiar room, familiar curtains, familiar sunlight. Everything was exactly the same as the past 10,000 days. The loop didn't end. I lay back on the bed, covering my eyes with my arm, a bitter smile on my lips. Sure enough, still no. What was I expecting? Expecting a kiss to break this damn curse? Too naive. By the bed, a slight noise came. I knew without looking, it was my roommate. He would walk past my door with his warm water. I closed my eyes, waiting. However, the expected footsteps didn't come. Instead, a cautious, tentative voice sounded. Caleb. I froze. This voice wasn't Josh, the grad student. It was a woman's voice. Cold, melodic, yet carrying a trace of uncertainty. I ripped my arm away from my face and whipped my head around. A woman wearing a white shirt, hair still messy, stood by my bed. In her hand, she held a glass of water. Her cold, exquisite face held a hint of nervousness, a hint of shyness, and a hint of expectation. It was Victoria Sterling. My brain went instantly blank. Why was she here? Why was she in my room? Did the loop not reset? I opened my mouth, finding my voice incredibly dry. Seeing my shocked expression, the corners of Victoria's mouth lifted slightly, revealing a very faint smile. She handed the glass to me. Your water. It's warm. I looked at the water, then at her, feeling like I was dreaming. How did you? I remember. She interrupted me, looking into my eyes, saying word for word, Caleb, I remember everything. The Cheetos, the dance machine, the dive bar, and her cheeks flushed with 2 spots of red. And that kiss by the sea. Boom! It felt like 10,000 fireworks exploded in my brain simultaneously. She remembers. She actually remembers. The loop didn't fully reset. Or rather, she was brought into this loop with me. No, that's not right. I suddenly remembered a setting I had ignored for a long time. Item inheritance bug. Occasionally bring back strange items e.g. villain's wig, roadside brick. Before, I had at most brought back luck. This time, I actually smuggled a living human being from the previous loop. This bug is a little too big. So, Victoria watched my stunned expression, a glint of mischief in her eyes. Does our agreement about the Cheetos factory still stand? I looked at her, at the light in her eyes, the smile on her lips. I suddenly felt this damn loop. Maybe it wasn't so hateful anymore. I took the glass from her hand and downed it. Then, I pulled her into my arms, hugging her tight. It stands. Of course it stands. Starting today, you're the boss lady of my Cheetos factory. Holding Victoria, it felt like holding an unreal dream. Her cold fragrance, her body temperature, all told me this was real. She really was smuggled over by me. You, let go first. Victoria struggled in my arms, voice shy. Only then did I realize I was shirtless. I quickly let go, face heating up. So, how did you get in? I tried to make conversation. You didn't lock the door. She straightened her messy clothes, ears still red. I woke up this morning in a strange hotel. Then, my brain was filled with many memories that didn't belong to me. She paused, continuing, I remember everything. So, I found this place based on the address and the memory. I nodded. So that's how it is. Seems this item inheritance bug comes with auto navigation and lock-picking features. Then you I looked at her. What's your plan? Did you forget our agreement? She countered. Cheetos Factory, MHM. She nodded seriously. You said, if I remembered, you'd really take me to elope. Me? Lady, I was drunk bragging. I'm broke. What am I going to take you eloping with? What capital do I have to open a factory? Besides, you're a billionaire CEO. Are you really giving up everything to do this with me? Seemingly seeing my hesitation, Victoria's eyes dimmed slightly. You regret it? No. I retorted immediately. Caleb Reed, stand tall. My word is my bond. If I said open a factory, we open a factory. It's just money, right? In a loops, to kill time, I memorized the winning lottery numbers for the entire world. Let alone one factory. I can afford 10. Good. Victoria smiled. That smile was brighter than the sunlight outside the window. Just then, a knock sounded on the door. Caleb, you up? You're going to be late for work. It was Josh's voice. Victoria and I looked at each other, both seeing tension in the other's eyes. Trouble. How to explain a beautiful woman suddenly appearing in my room. I'm taking a sick day. I shouted at the door. Sick day? Are you crazy? Today is the big signing day. But said anyone late is dead meat. I was getting a headache, wondering how to send him away. Victoria suddenly spoke, using a voice I had never heard before, gentle enough to drip water. Honey, ignore him. Let's continue. Outside the door, instant silence. About 10 seconds later. Holy shit. Josh let out an earth-shattering shriek, followed by the chaotic sound of running footsteps fading away. I stared dumbfounded at Victoria. She winked at me playfully. Handled. Me? The ice goddess can act, and act so well. I suddenly felt my understanding of her was just the tip of the iceberg. Crisis averted. I looked at Victoria, suddenly realizing a serious problem. Ms. Sterling, call me Victoria. She corrected. Okay, Victoria. I wasn't used to it. Right now, in this world, there are two of you. One is you, here in my room, remembering everything. The other is the one who knows nothing, who will show up at the company on time today to attend the signing with Chad. Victoria's face turned serious too. Yes. So, what do we do today? I asked. Go to the company and stop the other her from signing? Or just hide and let everything happen? Victoria looked at me, pondering for a moment. Then, the corner of her mouth hooked into a playful smile. Caleb, do you want to watch a good show? Good show. I paused. What show? Victoria walked up to me, stood on tiptoes, and whispered a few sentences in my ear. Listening, my eyes grew wider and wider. Is that even allowed? Why not? She countered. Anyway, today will still reset, won't it? Looking at her eyes, flashing with excitement, I suddenly discovered this woman had a crazy side hidden in her bones too. It was just suppressed too deeply before. Now that I brought her out of that cage, she wanted to taste madness too. Okay. I slapped my thigh. Let's do it. We quickly formulated a disruption plan that could be called perfect. Then I changed clothes and snuck out the door with Victoria. We didn't go to the company. Instead, we went to a coffee shop across the street from the office building. We found a window seat with a perfect view of the entrance. 9 a.m. A black Bentley stopped on time downstairs. The door opened. A woman in a high-end suit, face cold, stepped out. It was the other Victoria. Behind her followed her assistant, Ms. Gravis. The Victoria beside me looked at the woman who looked exactly like her. Eyes complex. She looks really pitiful. She whispered. Yeah, I nodded. Like a puppet without a soul. Soon, Chad arrived too. He drove a flashy red Ferrari, stopped at the entrance, then held a huge bouquet of roses, greeting her eagerly. Victoria, you look beautiful today. The Victoria beside me saw this and curled her lip in disdain. From the coffee shop, we watched them downstairs. It felt like watching a live movie. This feeling was truly bizarre. 9:30 a.m. The signing ceremony officially began. We watched the situation inside through a micro camera I had installed in the conference room beforehand. Everything was exactly as I remembered. Chad sat arrogantly at the head of the table. Victoria sat expressionlessly beside him. Buzz Miller bowed and scraped nearby. Then, the conference room door was pushed open. A young man in a cheap suit, looking sleepy, walked in. It was me. It was the me of this loop, who knew nothing yet. I yawned, walked to the corner under Chad's disgusted gaze, ready to be a background prop. The Victoria beside me couldn't help laughing. Is that what you used to look like? What else? I was a bit embarrassed. I was a pure corporate drone back then. In the conference room, Chad began his long speech. Everything was proceeding step by step, until my phone suddenly rang. Everyone froze, including the me in the room. He scrambled to pull the phone from his pocket to hang up. However, when he saw the caller ID, he froze. The caller ID read, Cheetos factory boss lady. On the face of, past me, an expression of utter bewilderment appeared, identical to the one I wore right now. Beside me, Victoria saw this and finally couldn't hold it back, laughing out loud. She turned to look at me, her beautiful eyes curving into crescents. Caleb, I like that contact name. That's right. This call was made by her, using my phone calling me. This was our plan. A grand farce directed by the present us, targeting the past us in them. The show had only just begun.